Good morning, everyone. I welcome all of the dignitaries for Open Data Week. Considering the pandemic, today we have most of the people who are online. A lot of people have joined the program online. Keeping the social distancing norms, we had not to have too many people in the audience. It's indeed a great honor, privilege for me, Apurva Palkar, to be a part of this program from Sanskrit University, to be co-hosting this event with Privileges for Municipal Corporation. This is a program where there are three things which have been organized today. And the three things that we're going to be doing today is the data hackathon, which is going to be happening. Then there is two contests which are on the writing side. So one is the blog writing, column the content, and article writing. So these are the three contests that we conducted. Besides this, we would also be having a strong panel discussion where we have invited people from different countries. So we have representation from Singapore, we have representation from Israel, which is the top in this particular space, and few from Pune and Mumbai. Indeed, a great honor privilege to have with us on dance today. With us, the first citizen, the mayor of Pimpri-Chinchwad. This is Usha Thakur. त्यांना आपण माहिती म्हणतो माहिती आपल्याबरोबर उपस्थित आहे त्यांच्याबरोबरच आपल्या we also have with us the commissioner Shri Rajesh Patil sir, who is somebody that everyone in this city is very close to and has a close bonding with him from a citizen perspective. We are also honored to have with us Namdev Ji Dhake, who has been a pillar of strength for this Pimpri-Chinchwad municipal corporation. We are also joined today by a lot of delegates, as well as online, as well as the jury members for hackathon. We have Geeta Durya Madam, who is the hackathon jury. We have Neeraj Shah, who is the jury with us today. We are also proud to have with us online Vinny Dev, who is another jury member with us today. We have panelists with us, Prashant Ansari. We have Aniruddha Pant. Both of them are data scientists that we have. Let's start the program with lighting of the lamp. May I request dignitaries to kindly light the lamp.
Oh. Sound.
We're joined by Shrikant Disle sir, who is the ACP of Division for Municipal Corporation. As we're all aware, that data plays a very, very significant role in the development of any municipal corporation. And this has been proved time and again at various municipalities, not only in India, but also overseas. I would be failing in my duties if I am not speaking about some of the municipal corporations who have made use of the data which has been assessed as well as used for decision making in the past. And there are examples of what is happening in the United States. In Boston, we've seen that the mayor in Boston has a dashboard which talks about a lot of data that gets in on the kind of problems and issues, whether the citizens are getting information, is the phone call being answered or not. So these are the kind of devices and the data analysis that is happening worldwide. Israel is another country which has used data very successfully, and India as a country is not far behind in this. We are actually making use of the data in a very, very positive manner. We're fortunate. I know I'm meeting sir for the first time, the ACP sir for the first time, but Savitribai Phule Pune University has been doing a lot of work. I would like to mention here the work that Savitribai Phule Pune University is doing with CID and the Center for the CMS in the Pune University is working very, very closely with CID, where there is a lot of information and data that is getting processed and also decision making on the crimes that are happening at various locations. And there's a team, dedicated team from Pune University that is working on that particular space. I would also like to make a mention of the fact that during the pandemic, Savitribai Phule Pune University also went ahead and there is a group of people. So Professor Pujari from the university has been working on the area of data modeling, which is the data which was used for the medical and the wellness side. And this data modeling at the national level has got recognition. This data was fortunately coming from Pune Municipal Corporation. And also PMCB had a visit where the Honorable Vice Chancellor had come during the tenure of Hardikar sir when he was here. And also a lot of information that is getting collated at the university level, and also processing is happening and predictions are happening on the data from the university perspective. Not only that, university also went in for the zero study. म्हणजे अशी वेळ होती की कोणी कोणाला भेटण्यासाठी उत्सुक नव्हतं त्या वेळेस वी हॅड 90 स्टुडंट 90 मुलं आपण आयडेंटिफाय केले पुणे विद्यापीठातून आणि या 90 मुलांनी जाऊन झिरो सर्वे केला जेव्हा ऍक्च्युअल लॉकडाऊन होता 2020 मे अँड जून मंथ. सो अशा प्रकारचं अनेक डेटा इन्फॉर्मेशन कोलेशन पुणे विद्यापीठात होत आहे. युनिव्हर्सिटी इज जस्ट वन प्लेस विच इज गेटिंग अ लॉट ऑफ ओपन डेटा. Besides university, we have multiple places where there is a lot of data which is available in the open sources. So there's a lot of transportation data which is available with the citizens. There is a lot of data which is available on the social media sites which could really be tracked. And the possibility of use of this data for decision making and policy making is something that really needs to be thought of. And that is what brings us all together here. So the context that I'm trying to put here is why is Pune University involved in this initiative with PCMC? PCMC is the mother, or I would say the nucleus for all the citizens' convenience
And I'm sure everyone only talks about the fact that we are only taxpayers, but at the end of the day, the municipal corporation is going out of its way, not only at the Chelmsford level or at the Pune level, but it's also trying to do this work at a state level and at the national level. And this is a policy which has come from directly from the government of India and the state government and down the line at the municipal corporation. And that's where all of us have gathered here together. I'm also happy to share with everyone that there are more than 40 teams today who are participating in the hackathon that's happening. So 30 teams have come online and few of the other teams have come offline. So jury will be seeing these teams as well. That also brings me to another aspect of Pune University, which is the incubation center that we have and the wherewithal that the university has. Recently, we were in the list of top 10 in the innovation space, the Untitled Innovation ranking that came. And for the first time, we participated in the ranking. We are just 2.5 years old in the innovation space. And for the first time, we applied for the innovation ranking. आणि मला सांगायला आनंद वाटतोय की पूर्ण राज्यात फक्त सावित्रीबाई फुले पुणे युनिव्हर्सिटी हॅज फिगर्ड in the state university list, and nationally only Punjab University and second is Savitribai University. So that is what brings us here in this innovative space of hackathon, of data hackathon that we are here to get together. I would now go ahead with the formalities where I will request, since Moman sir is unwell today, he has some health issues because of which he is not able to come here today. So Anita Kotalwar madam, who is the IT officer at PCMC, I will request madam to do the honors of felicitating my Dore. May I request you to kindly felicitate madam? May I request you to kindly felicitate the Commissioner Rajesh sir. Rajesh Patil sir. We are honored to have with us the ruling party leader, Namdev Ji Dhake with us. May I request you to kindly felicitate him. May I request Mayor Madam to felicitate our panelist. The first panelist with us is ACP Shrikant Display sir. Mayor Madam, can you kindly felicitate ACP sir. May I request Mayor Madam to kindly felicitate Aniruddha Pant sir. Dr. Aniruddha Pant, who is a data scientist and has been working in the space of data for a very, very long time. May I request ma'am to please felicitate Aniruddha Pant. I request madam to felicitate Dr. Prashant Pansari. Dr. Prashant Pansari. He is the founder CEO of Rubyscape and founder of Intellement Technologies for last 19 years. May I request ma'am, the Commissioner sir to kindly felicitate Geeta Tolia madam. Geeta Tolia madam is a startup specialist. Somebody is a chartered accountant, Sloan Fellow from London Business School, and associated with the Center for Innovation, Incubation and Linkages at Savitribai Phule Pune University as a mentor. May I request Commissioner Sir to kindly felicitate Neeraj Shah. Neeraj Shah, these two are going to be the juries today for the hackathon. I'm not sure if anyone else, Ashwin Srivastava, others are all online. So Ashwin Srivastava, Zuhar Sharon, and Stephen sir are going to be online. And I would skip my felicitation, which was supposed to be there. With this, I will request Honorable Mayor Madam to speak a few words on this occasion. Madam.
नमस्कार, मी अनिता कोटलवार, माहिती तंत्रज्ञान अधिकारी, पिंपरी चिंचवड महानगरपालिका. माननीय महापौर, माननीय आयुक्त, माननीय पक्षनेते व डिस्प्लेसर आणि जमलेले उपस्थित सर्व मान्यवर. आज आपण पिंपरी चिंचवड महानगरपालिकेमध्ये पुणे विद्यापीठाच्या सहकार्यातून ओपन डेटा वीक साजरा करत आहोत. तर ओपन डेटा वीक हे एक जवळजवळ 100 स्मार्ट सिटीजमध्ये केंद्र सरकारमार्फत हे तिसरं वर्ष आहे. तर पहिले 2 वर्ष पिंपरी चिंचवड कॉर्पोरेशनने पहिल्या 5 मध्ये आपण आलेलो आहोत. तर 2 वर्षामध्ये की कॉर्पोरेशनमध्ये जे विविध डिपार्टमेंट्स आहेत त्या डिपार्टमेंटमध्ये कुठला डेटा जनरेट होतो सगळी माहिती आपण 2 वर्ष कलेक्ट करून केंद्र सरकारने पोर्टल स्मार्ट सिटीचं पोर्टल तयार केलेलं आहे आणि त्या पोर्टलवर आपण अपलोड केलेली आहे सगळी माहिती. तर आता हे सध्या माहितीचं युग आहे. तर केंद्र सरकारला हे अपेक्षित आहे की प्रत्येक गव्हर्नन्स हे डेटा गव्हर्नन्स थ्रू झालं पाहिजे ऍडमिनिस्ट्रेशन आणि प्रत्येक सिटीज ऑल्सो डेटा ड्रिव्हन सिटी झाली पाहिजे. असे दोन आहे, डेटा ड्रिव्हन सिटी अँड गव्हर्नन्स शुड बी डेटा ड्रिव्हन गव्हर्नन्स. तर ह्याच्यासाठी माहितीचं कामकाजामध्ये गतिमानता येण्यासाठी, ट्रान्सपरन्सी वाढवण्यासाठी जास्तीत जास्त डेटा जनरेट झाला पाहिजे आणि त्या डेटा मार्फतच सिटीचं ऍडमिनिस्ट्रेशन चाललं पाहिजे. इफेक्टिव्ह डिसिजन मेकिंग मध्ये त्या डेटाचा उपयोग होऊन गुड आणि फास्ट डिसिजन होऊन सिटीची प्रगती झाली पाहिजे. हा डेटा ड्रिव्हन सिटी मागचा खरा उद्देश आहे. तर मागील 2 वर्ष आपण जवळजवळ 100च्या वर डेटा सेट सर्व विभागांची माहिती घेऊन आपण अपलोड केलेली आहे आणि पहिल्या 5 क्रमांकामध्ये आपण आलेलो आहोत. तर आपण कोविडमध्ये अनेक प्रकारचे डेटाबेस जनरेट केलेले आहेत. त्याच्यानंतर स्वच्छ भारत अभियानमध्ये अनेक प्रकारची माहिती आहे. महापालिकेच्या विविध विभागामध्ये आरोग्य, पाणी पुरवठा इथं सगळ्या विभागांची माहिती आपण उपलब्ध केलेली आहे. सर्व विभागांनी अगदी चांगलं कोऑपरेशन दिलेलं आहे आणि पहिलं वर्ष आणि 2 वर्ष पहिले आपण 5 मध्ये येण्याचा मान मिळवलेला आहे आणि हे ओपन डेटा अभियानाचं हे 3रं वर्ष आहे. आणि ह्या अभियानानंतर मागील 15 दिवस आपण माननीय कमिशनर साहेबांच्या मार्गदर्शनाखाली सर्व विभागाकडून जवळजवळ 150 डेटा सेटची माहिती प्राप्त केलेली आहे. शासनाच्या नॉर्म्स प्रमाणे ती फिल्टर केलेली आहे आणि ती आपण अपलोड केलेली आहे. 17 जानेवारी ते 21 जानेवारी हा ओपन डेटा वीक होता. त्या अंतर्गत आपण हे सर्व अभियान राबवलेलं आहे आणि ती अपलोडचं काम आपण आज लास्ट दिवस आहे त्याचा. आणि ह्या अभियानाअंतर्गतच आपण वेगवेगळे हॅकेथॉन घेत आहोत, वेगवेगळे वेबिनार आयोजित करत आहोत आणि आझादीचा अमृत महोत्सवाचा 75वं वर्ष सेलिब्रेट करण्यासाठी हा शासनाने ओपन डेटा वीक आयोजित केलेला आहे. त्या अंतर्गत आपण 15 दिवस झालं मागं हे प्रोग्राम आणि त्याचं नियोजन करत आहोत आणि माननीय आयुक्तांनी याबद्दल मोलाचं मार्गदर्शन केलेलं आहे आणि वेगवेगळ्या टीम्स आपल्याला कार्यरत करून वेबिनार, हॅकेथॉन हे सगळ्यांचं आयोजन आपण ऑनलाईन सगळं आपण आयोजन आज करत आहोत. आणि थोडीशी कॉर्पोरेशन विषयी पार्श्वभूमी सांगायची तर आपण 97 पासून कॉर्पोरेशनचं कॉम्प्युटरायझेशन सुरू करून आपण 2011ला ई गव्हर्नन्स हा प्रोजेक्ट सुरू केलेला आहे. तरी जे अंतर्गत केंद्र सरकारच्याच मार्गदर्शनाखाली फंडिंग पूर्ण केंद्र सरकारचं होतं आणि त्या प्रोजेक्टला आपल्याला मला सांगायला आनंद होतो की आम्हाला ई गव्हर्नन्सचं 2011 सालचं गोल्ड अवॉर्ड मिळालेलं आहे कॉर्पोरेशनला. तर कुठेही जर फास्ट आणि इफेक्टिव्ह प्रगती जर कुठल्याही क्षेत्रामध्ये नवनाविन्य जर असेल तर आपल्या कॉर्पोरेशनमध्ये ते घडू शकतं. तर आता मान्य पाटील साहेबांच्या अंडर आपण एक प्रोजेक्ट केलेला आहे की त्याचा सर आल्यानंतरच आपण त्याचा किक ऑफ केलेला आहे. तर आपण GIS बेस्ड ERP हा प्रोजेक्ट घेतलेला आहे. तर त्या प्रोजेक्टचं प्रतिनिधित्व मीच करत आहे आणि त्याच्या अंडर आपल्याला डिजिटल कॉर्पोरेशन बनवायचं आहे. भारतातली पहिली कॉर्पोरेशन डिजिटल बनवू शकते. आपण जर सगळ्यांनी प्रयत्न केले तर हा प्रोजेक्ट सक्सेस केला तर GIS बेस्ड ERP प्रत्येक काम हे आपण GIS वर मॅप करणार आहोत. म्हणजे प्रत्येक डिपार्टमेंट पूर्ण ई ऑफिस करून पेपरलेस ऑफिस करत आहोत आणि प्रत्येक काम फायनान्स असो, सिव्हिलचं काम असो, कुठलंही असो, प्रत्येकाची नोंद ही GIS वर असेल. तर खऱ्या अर्थानं हा प्रोजेक्ट जर आपण पूर्ण करत आलो, आता ह्या प्रोजेक्टचं काम प्रगती पथावर आहे. हा प्रोजेक्ट जर पूर्ण केला तर खऱ्या अर्थानं डिजिटल इंडिया अभियानाला सक्सेस होईल असं मी म्हणेन. आणि डेटा ड्रिव्हन सिटी ही पिंपरी चिंचवड होईल आणि त्याच्याच आपण प्रयत्नामध्ये आहोत आणि ते लवकरच यश आपल्याला प्राप्त होण्याची मी आशा बाळगते आणि माझे 2 शब्द संपवते. धन्यवाद. यानंतर माननीय आयुक्त सर आपल्याला मार्गदर्शन करतील.
Very good morning to all of you. Honorable Mayor of PCMC, Honorable ruling party leader, ACP of the town, Mr. Desle, Mrs. Apurva Palkar from Center of Innovation, Incorporation and Enterprise, Pune University, and all the dignitaries of the dais and those who have joined online and all the participants who have come all the way for hackathon. I welcome all of you. It is indeed a matter of honor for all of us that a function of this magnitude is getting organized in these difficult circumstances in collaboration with the Center for Innovation. My colleague, Mrs. Kotaruan, has elaborated how this corporation and the smart city initiatives are shaping the digital initiatives for the corporation and citizen. I would not like to take much time, but I would like to
Can you hear me?
just advise all of you that in this open data challenge, Pimpri Chinchwad Municipal Corporation is now among the first 2 cities in India who have shared the maximum number of data sets. And that gives us a lot of happiness. This means we have taken efforts to collect data from all government, non-governmental, and all other organizations. We are making them available for the people. Now, this data which is being made available is of immense importance for all the researchers, all the companies who are working in this domain, whereby they can use this data and can devise products and do the analysis, which will in a way help to the citizen at large. So we are committed to, we ourselves in the corporation, apart from what Smart City Mission has envisaged, we have our own open data portal, which is available to the citizen and through which anyone can access this data. And this process is going to be strengthened in future. Not only this, we are among the leading smart cities in the state in terms of the achievements in all respect. Recently, we have been shortlisted among the 11 smart cities in the country for Street for People Challenge. We are committed to make our streets, available for the people, and it is our endeavor that Pimpri Chinchwad becomes encroachment-free city, and we are working towards that. Similarly, we are also among the first 11 cities which are being shortlisted for Cycle for Change challenge, and we are just a second city. I mean, among the cities in Maharashtra. Uh, I mean, there are only two cities who are being shortlisted for this purpose. We we are very aggressively implementing the non-motorized transport policy, whereby most of our road in next 2 to 3 years will become cycle friendly, and this enhances the livability and the quality of life aspect for the citizen of this beautiful city. So once again, I thank all the panelists, dignitaries, all the researchers, all students, and all the honorable guests on the dais who have graced this occasion and made this, beautiful process a success. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patil sir. May I now request Honorable Mayor Madam to, to inaugurate today's program. Request you, Madam, to kindly inaugurate. माईंना मी विनंती करते की त्यांनी आम्हाला मार्गदर्शन करावे.
ओपन डेटा वीक या उपक्रमामध्ये उपस्थित असलेले महापालिकेचे सत्तारूढ पक्षनेते नामदेवजी लाटे साहेब, महापालिकेचे आयुक्त राजेश पाटील साहेब, ECP श्रीकांत देसले, सावित्रीबाई फुले विद्यापीठ डॉक्टर पालकर साहेब, माहिती तंत्रज्ञान अधिकारी अनिताताई कोटलवार, कंपनी सेक्रेटरी चित्रा पनवर, उपस्थित सर्व मान्यवर, सर्वांचं मनपूर्वक आजच्या या ओपन डेटा वीकच्या निमित्ताने उपस्थित असलेले पिंपरी चिंचवड महापालिकेच्या वतीने मी आपले स्वागत करते आणि ओपन डेटाचं उद्घाटन झालेलं आहे असं मी प्रथम जाहीर करते. आपले पिंपरी चिंचवड शहर माहिती तंत्रज्ञान क्षेत्रातील प्रमुख शहर आहे. त्या अनुषंगाने महापालिकेच्या वतीने माहिती तंत्रज्ञानाविषयी विविध उपक्रम वेळोवेळी राबविण्यात येतात. केंद्र शासनाच्या वतीने आयोजित ओपन डेटा वीक या उपक्रमात आपल्या शहराने सहभाग नोंदवलेला आहे. या माध्यमातून नागरिकांमध्ये ओपन डेटा संदर्भात जनजागृती होणार आहे. आपण सर्व नागरिकांनी या ओपन डेटा उपक्रमात जास्तीत जास्त सहभाग नोंदवावा असे मी आपल्याला आवाहन करते. सध्याची या माहिती तंत्रज्ञानाच्या युगामध्ये डेटा हा खूप महत्वाचा आहे. शासकीय कामकाज आणि लोककल्याणकारी योजना राबविण्यासाठी डेटाचा उपयोग होतो. हा डेटा सर्वांना निःशुल्क उपलब्ध व्हावा यासाठी केंद्र शासनाकडून ओपन डेटा सप्ताहाचे आयोजन करण्यात आले आहे. ओपन डेटा याचा अर्थ इंटरनेटवर सर्वांसाठी सहज, सुलभ आणि मुक्तपणे उपलब्ध असलेला डेटा. ओपन डेटा हा कोणत्याही कायदेशीर किंवा आर्थिक बंधनाशिवाय सर्वांना डाउनलोड करणे, अद्ययावत करणे आणि वितरण करणे यासाठी उपलब्ध असतो. ओपन डेटा संदर्भात नागरिकांमध्ये जनजागृती व्हावी यासाठी पिंपरी चिंचवड महापालिकेच्या वतीने PCMC ओपन डेटा चॅलेंज या मोहिमेचे आयोजन करण्यात आले आहे. या माध्यमातून शहरामध्ये ई-गव्हर्नन्सला चालना मिळणार आहे. केंद्र शासनाच्या ओपन डेटा चॅलेंज संदर्भात अधिक माहिती उपलब्ध आहे. नागरिकांनी या संकेतस्थळावर भेट देऊन आपल्या पिंपरी चिंचवड शहराशी संबंधित माहिती जाणून घ्यावी. तसेच माहितीचे विश्लेषण करून या संदर्भात लॉंग व्हिडिओ इत्यादी बनवून PCMC स्मार्ट सारथीच्या माध्यमातून सादर करावे. आपण सर्व नागरिकांनी या मोहिमेमध्ये सहभागी व्हावे. असे मी आपल्याला महापालिकेच्या वतीने आव्हान करते. धन्यवाद.
Dhanyawad, madam. May I request the jury panelists to kindly take your place on the first floor. Geeta ma'am and Shah sir, if you could go and start the program since the program is already inaugurated. May I request everyone to kind of let me know if people have joined online so that we can start a panel discussion. I will also request Honorable Commissioner Sir to be a part of the panel for some time if you can be. It would be helpful if you can spare 10-15 minutes for the panel discussion. I don't know if you time permits for you. You can definitely, okay. May I request the panel members to kindly join us on the stage. Prashant Pansare, Aniruddha Pant, can I request you to please join us on the stage?
मग बरं आला पाहिजे तिथं बरं दिसतं. काढू का? कुठून ते बघ तिथं बघ समोर. एडिट करून टाकले पाठीमागे मिरर. अजून त्यांच्यावर फोकस कर ना. बोल की भाऊ. केलं ना का इथं नाही केलं का आपलं ड्रॉइंग बरं फोन चौक सगळ्यांना टाळकी दिसत नाही त्याला सांगू ना आपण दिसणारच पेन काय. वरती तो कॅमेरा तिथे लावून तुझा लाव तुझा हा तिथे लाव.
To have a discussion on datism involving people for problem solving. We are fortunate to have with us in this panel discussion Honorable Commissioner of PCMC, Rajesh Patil ji, Shrikant Bisle sir, who is the ACP of Vibrichensward. We have with us Aniruddha Pant, who is the founder and CEO of Algo Analytics. Prashant Pansare, Dr. Prashant Pansare, who is the founder CEO of Rupeescape and founder of Implement Technologies Limited. He's also joined online by Zohar Sharon. Thank you, Zohar, for joining us from Israel, who is the executive director with Hackaveret Israel Center for Social Innovation. We're also joined online by Stephen Korek. Stephen leads Teradata's industry business development and solutions sales team in South Asia. Thank you so much for joining online. I think both of you are overseas. And I think very shortly we will be joined by Ashwin Srivastav, who is the founder CEO of Sapio Analytics. As we go through, we will also give you more introductions about our panelists. I know today the topic that we've chosen is a very delicate topic for the country, and the country today, not only the country, but I think the world is facing this immense challenge of data and the use of artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc., to effectively use this data for the use of citizens, for policy making, for decision making, for people at large, for products, services, startups, and so on and so forth. The field of analytics continues to gain a momentum in municipalities across the country as local governments have begun to use big data, which we just heard some time back. Honorable Commissioner Sir did mention how Preparation Sword Municipal Corporation is using this data in a big way and is leaping forward at the national landscape. More cities are adapting analytics and the practices even more than before, and the adaptation, deployment, and assessment of these technologies are happening not only confined to big labs and laboratories, but they are also happening at the local level. So with this, I come to my first question to Honorable Commissioner, sir. Sir, how do you see the use of the big data that's being generated from the open sources, which is the topic today? How do you see the use of this big data in terms of your role as a commissioner in this city?
First of all, hearty welcome to all the panelists. I think this open data about which we all are talking about. When it comes to the public bodies like municipal corporation, we are custodian of so much of data which is directly relates with people and the way they live. So and unfortunately, this there was no framework as such to share this data. First to collect this data and then to share it after proper validation to the people at large. So I think now since the new technologies like machine learning and artificial intelligence and big data analytics, they are all they are based on data. And if we see the urban scenario these days, there are many issues and problems about which we are grappling. So be it a problem of traffic congestion, be it a problem of pollution, or for that matter, anything related with the planning and other aspects in the town. So if we collect the data in a proper format, uh, and supply that, make it available to the people, to the researchers, and to the private organizations, universities. Then I think it will be of much help to the society. So we have already started that in Pimpri-Chinchwad Municipal Corporation. We have our own portal for sharing the data with the people. But maybe not much awareness exists about that. So I think this platform will help us to reach out to the organizations who are interested in using this data. And then we would like to interact with the organizations and get their feedback about the format of the data. Maybe as of now we may not be collecting the requisite information. So we would go back and try and see uh, as to the data which is actually can be consumed and can be processed is made available to the people in future. So we are also, on a mission to make the corporation digital in terms of all our processes and the delivery of services to the citizen. So in future, I think this would need a lot of interaction, lot of focus, so that we achieve our objective. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. On one side, when we say that the data is available and data is easily available, I think on to your left side is somebody who is sitting there to try and look at how do we try and curb the crime. So the data that goes in the public domain has two dimensions to it. One dimension, which is of course the positive dimension in terms of how we could use it for the good for the people. At the same time, there is also a fear and harm of that particular data. So striking a balance between the two is what I'm sure Srikanji has to balance it. And how, I'm not sure whether, I'm sure crime is a very, very serious problem. And this crime that is penetrating the society, regardless of any country, culture, and cybercrime is becoming a huge area of concern. It may be individuals, it could be the set of group focused on, someone wanting to look at a tangible property, someone trying to just kind of abuse a person, a woman, and so on and so forth. So these are also the areas that are really happening. Numerous amount of data is getting stored. बड़ा data है which gets stored in various servers. And I know there is a positive side of it which I mentioned in my opening remarks, where CID is actually making use of the data in terms of analyzing what is the prediction in a given region. So what is going to happen from the crime perspective also in a specific region. Uh, so the data that is available with you in your department, how are you making use of it both positively, and how are you trying to kind of curb the bad elements in it? And may I ask you to throw light on that, please?
First of all, thank you for inviting me as a panelist. Basically, duties of police are divided in 5 categories. First one is prevention of crime. Second one is detection of crime. Third one is investigation of crime. That is the prime duty of police. Fourth one is law and order maintenance. That is also important. And fifth one is traffic management. And we use data in all 5 duties. बेसिकली पारंपरिक पद्धतीच्या पोलिसिंगमध्ये बातमीदारामार्फत असेल किंवा त्या ठिकाणी समक्ष विचारपूस करणं असेल, फील्डवर ऑन फील्डवरचं डेटा कलेक्शन किंवा माहिती घेणं असेल, ते करत होतो. पण सध्याच्या डिजिटल एजमध्ये आपण या डिजिटल फॉर्मॅटमध्ये जे काही माहिती आहे त्या माहितीचा वापर करून आपण डेटा कलेक्शन, डेटा प्रोसेसिंग आणि डिसिजन मेकिंग 3 लेवलवरती आपण काम करतो. जसं आपण मेन्शन केलं की सीए असेल, नॅशनल लेवलवरती पण एनसीआरबी आहे, नॅशनल क्राईम रेकॉर्ड ब्युरो आहे, एससीआरबी आहे स्टेट लेवलवरती. अशा विविध इन्स्टिट्यूट मार्फत डेटा कलेक्ट केला जातो, अनालिसिस केला जातो. परंतु इम्प्लिमेंटेशन पॉईंट ऑफ व्ह्यू थोडंसं आमचं कॅपॅसिटी बिल्डिंग होणं अत्यंत आवश्यक आहे. प्लस पब्लिकचं तर मी एक उदाहरण दिलं आपल्याला की मी वाकड डिव्हिजनमध्ये काम करतो. वाकड भागामध्ये 1-2 महिन्याखाली चेन स्नॅचिंगचे प्रकार बरेचसे वाढले होते. आता स्पेशली टेम्पोरल अनालिसिस करायला ठरवलं की हा क्राईम कोणत्या वेळी आणि कोणत्या ठिकाणी घडतो. आम्ही मागील 1 वर्षभराचा डेटा कलेक्ट केला, 2 वर्ष 3 वर्षाचा केला. मागच्या वर्षाचा रेफरन्स घेऊन त्या ठिकाणी टाइम फ्रेम डिफाईन केली. आमच्या असं लक्षात आलं की अर्ली मॉर्निंग जे मॉर्निंग वॉक करतात महिला असतील वयोवृद्ध असतील सगळ्यांचं, तर ते सकाळी 5 ते 7च्या दरम्यान 2 तासामध्ये ठराविक काही हॉटस्पॉट ठिकाणी केले वापरला त्या ठिकाणी ते क्राईम होत होते. मग त्याप्रमाणे पेट्रोलिंग कॅम्प त्या ठिकाणी डिप्लॉय केला, त्याचबरोबर बंदोबस्त ठेवला आणि मॉर्निंग वॉक विथ पोलीस हा एक इनोव्हेटिव्ह कन्सेप्ट आपण त्या ठिकाणी पीपल आणि पब्लिक पार्टिसिपेशन असं म्हणतो त्या पद्धतीने आपण केलं ते. त्याच्यातून मागील 2 महिन्यामध्ये नॉट सिंगल इन्सिडेंट रिपोर्टेड ॲज अ चेंज सांगितलं. म्हणजे सर आपलं ते डेटावरती काम केलं, छोटं स्वरूपाचं काम, फार काय मोठं डेटा एनालिटिक्स किंवा काय केलेलं नाही याच्यामध्ये, पण छोट्या छोट्याच्यावरती काम करून आपण लोकांची सेफ्टी इन्शुअर करू शकतो. त्याचबरोबर आता स्मार्ट सिटी मार्फत जे काही कॅमेरेज बसले जाणार आहे त्याच्यामध्ये विविध डेटा अनालिटिक्स मार्फत आपण त्या ठिकाणी टेक्नॉलॉजीचा वापर करून क्राईम प्रिव्हेन्शनचा लॉ मध्ये काही अचानक काही ग्रुप गॅदर झाला आहे तर ते पण आम्हाला अलर्ट त्या ठिकाणी स्मार्ट IEEE सेंटर जे आहे दिल्लीमध्ये त्या ठिकाणी ते सगळं पॉपअप आहे, पोलीस वगैरे त्या ठिकाणी असतात. मग क्विक रिस्पॉन्स लाईव्ह डेटा त्याच्यावरती असणारा क्विक रिस्पॉन्स, कारण स्मार्ट सिटीमध्ये रिस्पॉन्स टाइम हा जो आहे तो फार कमी असला पाहिजे पोलिसांचा, तत्काळ त्या ठिकाणी आपले पोलीस पोहोचले पाहिजे. त्याचबरोबर 112 जी नवीन फॅसिलिटी सुरू केली आहे त्या मार्फतही लोकांना जेवढा आपण फास्ट त्या ठिकाणी रिस्पॉन्स देऊ त्यासाठी आम्ही प्रयत्न करत आहोत. अशी विविध माध्यम आहेत, विविध गोष्टी आहेत की ज्यावर आम्ही वर्क करतो. यंग ऑफिसर किंवा आम्ही नवीन डिपार्टमेंट झालो पुढे 20-30 वर्ष काम करणार आहोत. आम्ही इंडस्ट्री 4.0च्या एज मध्ये थोडंसं आम्ही त्या ठिकाणी अपडेट असणं अत्यंत आवश्यक आहे, त्या दृष्टीने आम्ही प्रयत्न करतो. आणि सर्व डिटेल्सना माझं आव्हान आहे की जो काही डेटा आहे त्या डेटामध्ये फक्त 2 गोष्टींचा बॅलन्स करावा असं मला वाटतं की डेटा तुम्ही कलेक्ट करताय पण प्रायव्हसी जी आहे ती त्या ठिकाणी आपण लक्ष घेतली पाहिजे. दुसऱ्याची प्रायव्हसी पण डेटा घेणं किंवा त्या गोष्टी ज्या आहेत त्या थोड्याशा आपण थोडंसं क्लिअर करू शकतात. त्याच्यानंतर दुसरा एक ह्युमन फॅक्टर. बऱ्याच वेळा आपण सोशल मीडियाच्या माध्यमातून पाहिलं असेल की ऍक्सिडेंट होतो आणि लोक शूटिंग करत असतात. दिस इज नॉट गुड. ठीक आहे, तुम्ही तिथं काहीतरी डेटा कलेक्ट करताय किंवा काहीतरी पोलिसांना सांगू आपण किंवा परत पाठवून अशा गोष्टी करताय, पण कुठेतरी ह्युमन अँगलला पण त्या ठिकाणी रिस्पॉन्स देणं अत्यंत आवश्यक आहे. वेगवेगळे विभाग असतो त्याला हॉस्पिटलला हे करणं घेऊन जाणं वगैरे याच्या गोष्टी आपण केल्या पाहिजे. असं टेक्नॉलॉजी प्लस ह्युमन अँगल जर आपण चांगला ठेवला तर निश्चितच त्या ठिकाणी आपल्याला मदत होऊ शकते. थँक्यू.
खूप छान, अगदी खूप विस्तृत वर्णन केलं तुम्ही कसं पोलीस विभाग याचा उपयोग करतोय. We joined with us online by Zohar Shiron, and I know I have been listening to Zohar for so many years. He's somebody who has been rocking the world with the kind of work that is done in Tel Aviv. So the Tel Aviv Municipal Corporation, the kind of work that's happened. Also, currently he is involved in the social innovation space. Zohar, my question to you would be, before I go into the question, the municipal corporations are playing a significant role in digital transformation, and this has been experimented and proven in Israel, and which you have been speaking of. You came to India also some time back and spoke about it in the city of Pune as well. As a part of, so you were earlier a part of Tel Aviv municipality digital transformation. You've been a major contributor to the city of Tel Aviv and bringing it on the global map. You have done tremendous work in terms of connecting residents to the city. Could you just elaborate on your experience? I know your experience can go on for an hour, but I think we would definitely want to know, at least in brief, for the audience who is listening to this, to all of us, as to how did you make this transformation happen? John.
Okay, so thank you. Good morning from Israel. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this important panel. I really miss India, really. I was happy to be a partner in recent years in doing important things for the residents together with my friends from India, from Foxbury, Lady Global. And today I lead the social entrepreneurship in Israel through the management of the Center of Innovation for Social Entrepreneurship in Israel. But for years, I served as the Chief Knowledge Officer of the Tel Aviv municipality. And I had the privilege of leading the digital transformation of Tel Aviv and the smart city. And I gained many insights from these processes. So when we talk about open data and information, it is important to understand that open data is a means and not the target. Okay? So the goal is to promote the quality of life of the resident and his family. The information should be used by the resident in this life cycle. opening opportunities for a better life in all important elements like health, employment, education, welfare, housing, leisure, and life. Digital transformation allows us to realize these important goals, but it is important to understand digital transformation is not just technology. Okay? So the technology is just one component of the transformation process. So in order to promote transformation, we also need to promote the governance and the leadership in the organization that will support processes. We need to address organizational culture that is make managers and employees understand why it is important to update and share information. We need resources for education and training. My venture in Tel Aviv called Digital, which won international acclaim and awards, is taking into account all the elements I mentioned. The project aims to make accessible to every resident open information services and personal benefits tailored to each resident, managed and intelligently integrated cross-organizational open information. The information is coming from all urban units, looking at the needs of the resident here and now, and accessing it smartly using an algorithm that knows the required information according to the needs of the residents, according to location, age, marital status, interest, and so on. So we live in an age where we consume information in a variety of ways, and the most needed information is personalized information that is accessible by push. So we are gone with the era where we can expect the citizens to go to the local authority website and search for relevant information. The expectation is that the information will be accessible to me as a citizen in a tailored manner, similar to my feed on Facebook, Twitter, and the like. Therefore, we can talk about open data and information. We are talking about the one hand enabling mechanisms that will allow the governments to make relevant, up-to-date and available information, and accessible and allow startups to build applications using this information that will improve the lives of the residents. So, for example, a good example from Israel is the International Moving app that allows me to know how to get from place to place via public transport. And when my bus will arrive at the station, the app was released. The app will tell me, and the app was released after the Israeli government made the public transport information accessible in real time. Okay, so that is a good example of open data. That is when we talk about connecting residents to the city, we must first understand the need of residents, how we can improve the quality of life through open information. And my recommendation is to focus and not to disperse. Characterize the types of information that may be most relevant to the residents and build good mechanisms. So we must open the information accessible by all relevant means, including enabling startup companies to connect directly to these databases and build on the back great apps that will serve the residents. So finally, in addition, all the cities services must be made digital, accessible with exposure to all possible platforms, while building simple applications with good user interface that make it easier to consume and expose them to the general public. So the most important thing is to break the silos and make the information accessible by seeing the needs of the resident, not the needs of the municipality corporation. Thank you.
It's a very important point. So how do we look at the needs of the residents and not the needs of the municipality? I think that is a great driving point that you've made, and I'm sure you've made very, very significant point in terms of how do we make the citizens more knowledgeable in terms of sharing the information. And I know we have with us Prashant Pansari, who is on the other side of the table. You also made a mention of the fact that we need to have more number of startups who could really come use the data to make effective use of converting them into startups which may be of use to citizens. So Prashant, you're a believer in disruptive technologies, what I understand, and have been continuously innovating for Gen Next technologies, and that's what your profile says, and that's what I've known you for so many years. Would you like to tell us more about the Rubyscape labs that you have created as the new age data science platform company that you have set in the forefront of technology innovations in AI, machine learning? How do you see this industry 4.0 and business analytics, etc., coming through this new initiative of yours?
नमस्कार. सर्वप्रथम मी पुणे पिंपरी चिंचवड महापालिकेचे अभिनंदन करतो आणि आभार मानतो की ओपन डेटा इनिशिएटिव्ह सारखा एक अतिशय सुत्य आणि रेलेव्हंट उपक्रम त्यांनी हाती घेतलाय. I wish, Apurva, it would have been little kind to me because your question is so loaded that it actually covers the gamut of things. But I'm happy that you posed that question. Before I answer that specifically, let me give you the context that why data is so relevant today. And I was just googling one query that population of Pimpri Chinchwad area, and I got something for more than 17 lakh. If you understand the data appetite of every individual today is minimum 2 GB data a day, and I'm talking about a personal data. So here you are talking about at least more than 30 lakh GB of data being produced only in Pimpri Chinchwad area. Right? We are talking about the innovation and the data, open data initiative, and how this can be used by various stakeholders, whether it is industry, academia, government, police. Right? I mean, we have our police friend here, but they now need to also be data cops, and not only the cops. How is that landscape changing, and how we can amplify data? So as they say, data is a new soil. Data is a new oil. I feel data is a new soil, and connectivity is oxygen. Because if you think in that context, everyone is connected with things, and things are connected with things, and those things are connected with people. So think about it from the context of data of everything. And when you look at it this way, some interesting statistics of the lockdown, right? Last 18 months, particularly in Indian context, very interesting insights are coming up. In India, I don't know how many of you are aware, but the internet user population of regional languages in India has surpassed English population. What does it mean? Is that there are so many states, so many cities in India where people don't speak, understand, and interact in English as a primary language. They communicate in their local regional languages. And if you divide that population, maybe if my primary language of communication is classified as English because I'm using it for business, and in general, probably there will be some people who might be using either Marathi or a local regional language as their primary language, which is also selected for their Android or maybe Facebook or social sites. And with that classification, you can understand that if non-speaking English-speaking population in India has surpassed English-speaking mobile internet users, that actually will help you understand that what is the potential of data apps. So we are talking about open data movement. Open data is a raw material for your data apps. And today when we talk about say for example a government, healthcare, electrical distribution, education, all these departments, how they can be appified. And when we talk about that application, how those common data sets can be playing a vital role in terms of creating citizen engagement, citizen services, e-governance, regulation, and all of that. Now, when we look at it this way, we felt that India Open Data Initiative and India's data platform has come up a long way. But there are not local technologies that can actually help in doing that. So at Rubyscape Labs, what we did a couple of years back, started breaking our head in building a horizontal technology which can be designed for what we call as citizen data scientists. So we are talking about citizen engagement, citizen participation, but how can people be benefited by not just creation of a data, but consumption of a data in more meaningful and a contextual way. And every city, every state, every country, if you see, is today battling with these challenges that there are data producers and data consumers, but when we are talking about data aggregators, there are only few companies commercially successful who are being able to do that. Now, if we have to adopt something, digital transformation is in air. Today, this conference is more attended digital and virtual. So when we are saying that the city or the world is going through digital transformation, data democratization is at the core. And when we say data democratization, how can we make data available with its net worth to the stakeholders? What is our ability to access, transform, and make this data as a utility so that we can, generate the worth out of it? So what we did, a couple of years back, and thanks to our government's initiative, be it Digital India or Startup India, is we have registered Rubyscape under Digital India program and Startup India movement, and we have built a 100% indigenized technology as a horizontal platform that actually provides you right from the connectivity. Because when we talk about data connectivity, especially big data, which is often classified as an unstructured data, text, images, social media, machine, device, sensors, videos. These are type of data that we are talking about. How we can connect that data, and for example, he was talking about some of the safety regulation or law enforcement services. So video as a data input, whether it is traffic surveillance or regulation, how that can be used. So what happens is most of the time when we talk about technology platforms, there are silos. So what our vision was to democratize data science in two ways, and we built up the data connectivity to data engineering, data science, and data visualization, all these pillars into one single software, and create a mechanism for building data apps. So today, if I want to build any citizen engagement app, or maybe if I want to build a traffic signal monitoring surveillance app, how can we leverage data platform as products inside product? Right? And how can you build those verticalized solutions? So what we've done is created a horizontal as a complete unified data platform that can be leveraged by researchers, academicians, as well as the government and industries for building their verticalized application. I'm very proud to state that it has already won half a dozen of product innovation awards in terms of how we are participating in this open data movement. And hence I felt that it is very timely that even PCMC has been in third year hosting this. We certainly would be very much keen through some of our academia partnerships as how we can collaborate with the local municipal corporations as well as some of the key stakeholders in helping them bringing together the data innovation in the larger context, and then application of it using artificial intelligence or machine learning is at an application level. But what we have built is like a data refinery, and once you through refinery bring that oil, crude oil or petrol at the surface level, then the distribution through petrol pumps and then the consumption of it in the vehicles are actually the subsequent phases. And hence, we certainly feel delighted that the Made in India technologies are coming up the age, and we are not only IT services superpower, but India is now aiming and aspiring as IT and software products, superpower as well. And we are happy that we could make whatever possible little contributions. Thank you.
I think very important point that you're driving, and I think for us, consistently for last 20 years, you've been working on this agenda. It's not that you've just spoken on this particular agenda, but I've seen you, the passion with which you've been trying to work. And I think that's what the world is today looking at. India no longer wants to be a kind of a nation which is a service provider nation, but we want to move from a service provider nation to becoming a product nation, and a lot of IPs that we need to really own in the country.
So I think that's a very, very important point, and the way in which the corporates could really work hand in hand with probably the departments in the civic society of the common interest for people is what is the way forward. I know I have the next panel is also from industry, and I always thought that it would be important to collab with your views. So we have Dr. Aniruddha Pant with us. Dr. Ajay Pant, you've been a data scientist for more than 2 decades, and you've been engaged with multiple companies, startups, some in the healthcare sector, in the MSME sector, in the manufacturing side as well. So you have a wide experience and exposure. So how do you see the space changing in the role of AI? Because you've been working with a lot of data. So since I understand that you are a data scientist, and fortunately, we're happy that he's also a part of Satyavai Phule Pune University as a visiting faculty in our few departments. He is engaging with the university as well. And of course, we got connected with him with Deep Tech, a startup which is in the wellness space. So where he's also co-founder. So he wears multiple hats is what I see. He's also teaching in Flame on the data side. So how do you see the role of data so you're both in the quantity and the quality side. So how do you see that happening with people at large?
Yeah, thank you, Apurva. And first of all, thank you so much for inviting me for this program. It's really great initiative. So from my perspective, actually, I think we are already in the data deluge kind of an environment where lots of, as CP sir said, I mean, there are lots of cameras which are installed all over the city, and then there is a data feed which is coming to the surveillance centers. But I feel AI and machine learning come into picture where you can actually already filter out those things so that only the potentially interesting things actually are shown to the people. And that actually is very critical from timely action on things of interest. So if there are things which are happening, so let's say there are 10,000 cameras. Fortunately, let's say for police, in, by interesting I mean over there, I mean like some mishap happening somewhere, right? Maybe that is happening in one camera out of those 10,000. But how do you make sure that that particular thing is actually seen in real time? That is where the machine learning, unsupervised learning, supervised learning comes into picture. And that is where we are trying to build these algorithms. And very similar algorithms we have built for our healthcare startup, where again the same situation. Let's say you take X-rays of 100 people. Out of those 100 people X-rays, only one or two of them are actually going to be problematic and they are going to have some kind of a disease. So can you make sure that you can identify maybe 5 or 10 out of those, and only those can be shown to the expert, so that the expert actually can take timely action on the things which are of interest. And same sort of algorithms we are building, and we are looking to see how we can actually in real time make things of interest available to the decision maker. That actually is what machine learning is all about, and that is where we are moving. Right now, we are focused on building using these algorithms, something in the MSME manufacturing space, and obviously this area is a MSME manufacturing hub. But I think similar ideas can be very useful in the smart city area as well. So that's what I would say.
It's a deal of work that I think you've been able to do at Chennai Municipal Corporation as well. So TB, which is one of the dreadiest kind of a disease which everyone kind of fears in the whole country, is where you've been able to work very closely with the municipal corporation. And I know the kind of work that you have been doing in the COVID times as well in the healthcare sector. This is commendable, and I think that's the way forward in terms of seeing if 1,000 beats are available, then which is that one which needs to go to the decision maker is what is the future. We are really excited to meet you, Ashwin, today online. I know you are a young startup and you have achieved milestones at a very, very early age. And when I looked at your profile, I was really impressed because I don't know, not many people think of getting into this particular space that you are into. And below the age of 30, you're already an achiever and a newsmaker, which really excites me. And you've been working on the policy space and working with railways and I don't know, I mean a lot of public institutions that you've been working on. So what do you think is the future of policies and with the help of data interventions and effective use of data as the way forward in public enterprise? I know for someone as young as you to ask this question, I think I'm excited to hear from you, Ashwin. We can't hear you, Ashwin. Are you on mute or something?
You, you couldn't mute it.
You can hear him? Ashwin, you are muted. You'll have to unmute yourself, maybe. Yeah, he's able to hear us. It shows mute Ashwin to us. Maybe in the meantime, we sort out the voice problem with Ashwin. I think it shows to us that he's in mute. In the interest of the program being live and online, I will move on to. I'll come back to you, Ashwin, in a little while. We have with us Stephen Korek. Stephen, are you there? Can we hear you? We could just do a small test if you can hear Stephen's voice. Could you just speak up a few sentences, Stephen?
हाँ येतो येतो होय आशिष सर बाहेर ओपन होत नाहीये आवाज
Ashwin, can you speak now? Yeah, please. Yeah, we can hear you. Ashwin, can you come? Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
मॅडम ते माझं प्रॉब्लेम नाही तर ठीक आहे ठीक आहे
Just a minute, give me a minute. I just logged in, I'll log off from my phone. I'm just trying to test. 1 minute, huh? Just give me a minute. Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead. We can hear you. Ashwin, can you hear me? Ashwin, can you hear me?
I think.
Yeah, we are fine. We can hear you very well, Ashwin. There is no problem. Please go ahead.
Oh, you can hear me now?
Yeah, perfect. Please go ahead.
Oh, wow, awesome. Great.
Sorry.
Okay, so we are back on track now.
Yeah, perfectly.
Great. So, yeah, so to answer your question now, so basically, I have been a data entrepreneur and AI entrepreneur for a while. I started investing started with my typical domain, working in building tech products in the data space and then investing in tech companies in the data space. And I was very happy doing that, figuring out the power of what data can bring to impact the world. And that's when I started advising a few government entities and I started meeting government officers. And I saw something very interesting. I saw that I think someone will need to mute the.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So that's the time, when I could see, okay, there is so much of data getting generated by citizens, by people, data getting generated in different forms, unstructured way, whatever people are talking, thinking, it's all getting generated in some form of data, and there's a lot of value which can be extracted out of it to help governments take the right decisions. Because all my companies had been focused on helping corporates, helping private institutions to do something better in terms of decision making using data. And here I was seeing the potential of what can be done with governments. And the potential was so huge that I could see impact being made on a level which I would have never have been able to do if I was focused only on what I was doing, being a venture capitalist. So that's how the whole advent into using data for the purpose the policy making began. And now, JPO, the company that I represent, has got a number of people from former government officers. So, me being young is not a problem because we have got lots of old people in the company who are, who have taken PRS, retirements, and they are all, senior IS officers who are part of the team working with us together on this. Five major divisions we focus on. One is economic growth. So with the government recently, with the government of Uttar Pradesh, we have worked on something which can hopefully increase the GDP of the state significantly using the power of data. We were able to figure out the voice of citizens who belong to the unorganized sector, and then convert it into something very intelligent, and that is being now used to make a policy. A new policy has been created based on what we created. With the government of India, there's a lot of work going on the blue collar worker space. There's a new policy called Captioning, which was created by our data driven system. So it's very interesting that the entire policy came out of our AI, our artificial intelligence. So that's what is happening today. And that's by the government of India, which we taken over at the central level as well. Then we have got another division in the space of local administration. We are working with government of Telangana at various local levels as well as various other governments also. We have got a division in the space of law enforcement and intelligence as well. So I know Sikanta is also there. In the state of Maharashtra only with Chandrapur district, we have begun this concept of smart cop, where the cops are smarter because of the data which is getting fed to them, and they are able to predict a number of things which are happening. So it's a beautiful system. Sounds very futuristic, but it's happening. It's happening in India within our ecosystem also. And so, and we've got intelligence division also. We work with IB and other entities also. We have got a division in healthcare where we have again with the government of India. We are working on something called the smart healthcare ecosystem. Pan India, something amazing is happening in terms of collecting data on ground and using it to make health policies on a hyper local level. And then we have got heritage and culture division. So we have got multiple divisions, all of them talking to each other and figuring out intelligence of data which already exists. So that's what we do. And once data which exists can be used to derive such intelligence and actually understand the voice of the people, then policy making becomes easier. That's the whole concept which we are working on. And ma'am, I recently wrote a book called The Artificially Intelligent Government, wherein I talked about how the data-driven intelligence that we are working on led to significant amount of impact during the whole COVID-19, the first 1.5 years of COVID-19 also. Because we were part of multiple war rooms, we were part of multiple policy-making bodies, and that time we brought in data to help create a number of decisions which were able to optimize not just the health impact, the spread of COVID, but also the social impact which is happening because of that, and the economic impact also because of the lockdown and everything. And that's why the Prime Minister talked about something called a gradual lockdown plan, and later it became a part of the what we are all doing right now. So that's what is mentioned in the book as well. So the point is that data coming in from people being converted into something very intelligent can actually become the fodder for the policymakers to take the right decisions, make the right policies, and not only do that, but also execute them and constantly monitor them in real time, and have constant improvements over them. So this is something that we have been working on, and so excited with the potential of what data can do. That's on my side.
So yes, all the panelists are talking. I think all every panelist has mentioned about real-time data. So this is something that I think everyone has made a mention of real-time data and how do we effectively use it. And I think Ashwini, we were driving home a very, very important and significant point, especially during the health crisis, that it is just not about health crisis, but also the kind of impact it has had on people emotionally it has had an impact on the economy of the country, and it is completely topsy-turvy the whole country, and the data has been a great savior in terms of the way forward, when people are really not able to understand where do we go ahead and go forward. We have another panelist with us, Stephen Correct, has joined us again from overseas. And as I made an introduction about him, that he's been leading the Terra data industry. So I think he's been in the strategic role in terms of making use of the Terra data customers to build strategies. Stephen, I've been trying to understand the kind of work that you're doing, and I understand that the evolution of smart cities in India is absolutely at an accelerating stage, especially we are in a city where we have Pune, which is a smart city space, and Pimpri was another one, and nearby cities like we have in Nasik, Thani, and many of them even in our own state, where most of them are in the smart city category. With the influx of citizen data, which has been the core focus for a lot of smart cities, how do you think smart cities will integrate and analyze this data effectively and efficiently to provide services and facilities to the citizens? I know a part of it was covered by Zohar in his opening remarks, but I would like to know from you, Stephen, how do you see this?
So am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Perfect. So good afternoon from Singapore, and thank you very much for this opportunity. In Teradata, and the company that I work for, we constantly look for ways, to improve how businesses work and also how people live. And it's all through power of the data, right? Data is kind of centric to our vision and mission. And the topic of smart cities is really close to my heart personally, as it's not just boosting the profit of the company, right? It's more about boosting the quality of the human's life, right? It's really important for us. And let me start answering to your question a bit broader. So India is urbanizing, right? Over 35% of the population now live in the cities, at least according to Google, I find out. But it's still below the global average, right? Globally, it's 50%. And if you look in Europe, it's actually 75%, of the population that live in the cities, right? So in this context, it's obvious that India's urbanization will continue to grow and will grow exponentially in the upcoming years, right? And since the beginning of the trend, since the beginning of urbanization, city administrations have been looking for ways how to make living in the cities more bearable, right? It's been moving to cities has been always a big change, for humans, right? Like you are detached from the nature, you are actually more concentrated before, right? So it was always a challenge to find a balance between the efficiency that cities bring, right? But also the livability, the sustainability of the living, right? Make it more pleasant. So it's not just a technology discussion, it's a primarily sociological phenomenon, right? We like to live in a clean and friendly environments. That's a human nature, right? But it's also a political program, right? In democracies, we vote for politicians who kind of make our life better, right? So it's also important to understand this dimension of the discussion. So for these reasons, many cities have developed comprehensive policies to improve their livability, right? To make the life of their citizens better. But it was really advent of new technology that has and started the trend of smart cities, right? And by the way, these are the same technologies that have already changed the way how big businesses operate, right? We talk about big data, we talk about advanced analytics, artificial intelligence, we talk about mobile applications, and all those cool and fancy things, they've been in a business, now for 20, 30 years, right? So using citizen data And applying advanced analytical methods is not just an option for the city administration, right? It's the only way to go in their strive to improve the quality of the living, right? And they should follow the examples of other cities, right? We're talking India, right? You know, India has advantage that they can look around, right? They can look to Israel, they can look to the US, they can look to Singapore, like they can look into Europe, right? And there are a lot of templates and examples of the smart cities and the cities that are actually successful in implementing those policies and also successful in implementing technologies, right? And data integration and collection that enable the smart city. Analytics require data integration, right? Integrating is a data, but there are already multiple solutions in place, you know, that can accelerate such a code rate, right? The key ones I would like to mention are the fast data transfers, right? You know, the new technologies around 5G or 4G, you know, are helping, right? You know, because you can transfer a lot of data much faster and you can do it wireless, right? Cloud computing, right? Instead of building a complicated data centers per department, you can really leverage the power of cloud, you know, and virtualize the factory of computing, right? There are modular software architectures, you know, been already tested, you know, and adopted, you know, that allow to deploy the capabilities across multiple players, still, you know, bringing kind of an integrated concept, right? And last but not least, these are the decentralized governance models, right? We talk on one hand about integration, but the nature of the city administration is about having individual agencies controlling their own data sets, right? So it's the open data concept that will allow for the sharing, but before you share the data, you need to process it. Before you share the data, you need to clean it, you know, you need to collect it, you need to govern it, right? So this kind of balance between centralized approach and decentralized approach, right? And the modern methodologies in IT, right, in IT management, have a lot of concepts that make this viable, right? And it's not a question of the cities will use the data honestly. They will, right? There is no other way, right? The question is when they will use it, right? You know, how fast they adopt, you know, the usage pattern that I've been talking about, and how much value they're going to derive from the data for their citizens, right? And once the data is made available and integrated, it shall support numerous use cases, right? The potential for improvement is really widespread, right? And we already heard about some of them, right? You know, and we usually talk about mobility and we talk about the multimodal, you know, traffic, you know, and transport management, right? You know, integrating the buses and trains, you know, and in the future, the autonomous cars, right? We talk about building smart infrastructure and understanding, you know, future needs, you know, of the population where the infrastructure needs to be built. We can talk about smart grids, right? You know, whether it's about electricity, whether it's about the utility, other utilities, and so on, right? Smart buildings, and you can expand the concept into healthcare, as Ashwin mentioned, right? You know, it's a smart and friendly government. Why would you need to attend the office if you can send an email or you can communicate through your applications, right? So it's really a data analytics and application decision chain, you know, that will enable the concept, you know, is enabling the concept. And yeah, and that's the way how to make our cities nicer, more beautiful, and definitely more livable. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen, for that different kind of a perspective coming from Singapore's trade. So we have had different kinds of perceptions from people coming from different parts of the world today, and really fortunate that we've been able to come together, sitting here in Pune, to have viewpoints from all of you. I know everyone has been speaking about the kind of the data and the kind of use cases. So everyone is speaking on the aspect of use cases. I know we have Prashant and Anirudh and Ashwin, three of you are in the space, in the doing space with companies, leading companies yourselves. So I know you've been dealing with data day in and day out, and my only question to the three of you here, one after the other, if you could answer, on what kind of innovative solutions from your experience for your own companies you've been able to deploy, whether it was for machine learning or AI, and how do you see the role of your organization, typically the way you have taken this up, because you're in a mission, or all of you are on a mission is what I see. None of you are the kind of people who want to sit back and just see how the world is going, because you're in the world of disruptive technology and disruptive data, which is very, very important. So may I request you to throw light on how your organization is building this? Prashant.
So this is a very relevant question because data is an ocean, and what she's asking is that how do we sail through and reach the right destination? And it is not only about we being victims or creators of the data, but how we consume it for more purposeful, meaningful outcomes of it. And that is what I call as the application of data assets. And there are a number of companies. If you actually see that today, most successful startups, the data startups, are the ones who have understood the spirit of what we call as the asset-light business models and operating in shared economy zones. And if we understand that, just think about the probably 4 or 5 terms that I share with you. The data is in every connection, every interaction, every transaction, every observation, and every intervention. And data companies are the ones who are picking up one of this and building their value proposition maybe for the global markets. So, for example, if you look at the payment gateway, can you take one process of that and build your data app around it? We have been engaged with some of the health tech companies who are actually going to disrupt healthcare industry with image processing and artificial intelligence. What I believe in is that probably few months down the line we'll see no queues outside the pathology or hospitals for getting your medical advice or treatments. How can you use radiology as a service? How can brain MRIs using AI and machine learning can be amplified, where your clinical decisions, interventions, and investigations can be amplified. We've seen food industry going that way, payment industry going that way, insurance industry going that way. So the next big disruption in a populated country like India is going to be healthcare and agriculture. Just think of soil testing as a service using drones and robotics. It can become an affordable solution. If we look at so many problem areas and how they can be solved by putting together the jigsaws, right? When we talk about the aggregators apps, and that's where I was actually referring to, that how can we live in the shared economy, and I'll just re-emphasize on one of the popular example of Uber. So when it's an aggregation platform for drivers and riders to come together, see the way they leverage on maybe Paytm or a Google Pay for a payment gateway, and Google Maps as probably a something on an API call that is coming and making your life easier. So when you are going from one destination to another and you take an alternate route, it is recalculated with the estimated time and the fare. It's AI access best in your pocket. Now, what these companies are doing together, they're shared economy. Instead of battling alone, they're coming together by technological models, and it is an asset light. So, companies like Uber, Ola, without investing in building factories or making cars, they're redefining need of transportation. So, like you will still be not able to operate these models without the car makers. Similarly, in healthcare, there will be some companies who will be making those heavy duty, capital intensive equipments, but how you amplify them and create affordable goods and services. So we call them as smart products and digitized services using data apps that can get billions of people on hold. One example I can quote in conversational AI is 5 years back, India's very own big telecom startup, Reliance Jio, has already crossed more than 50 crore customers, and their activation, if you actually see, is being with help of the bots. Very popular case study. but understand that there is no salesman who's actually coming to you, and there is no support service executive who's serving you. Now that's the power of automation, AI, in terms of handling your business model, which needs hyper scalability. So data apps is you have to think and imagine that what is the problem that you can solve, and can you solve that at a global level. So then think about it from shared economy and asset light business models. That's where the data innovation and disruption is happening today.
Great insights in terms of understanding how the shared data is going to change the economic landscape and also the models. So the business models are undergoing transformation, and I'm very excited when you spoke about the example of agriculture. So I'm pleased to inform that we already have a startup that's already working in this space, e-innovation. Of course, he's not gone into AI, but he's using sensor technology to detect not so soil moisture is one part. From there, he's gone in for weather prediction as well. So that's another thing, and the number of land pieces that they're taking into, the data is getting compiled, and that data will be helpful in kind of prediction of not only the soil but the weather, but the amount of water that's required, and probably if it is done on all the land pieces across the state, it will be a great indicator for policymakers to make a lot of change. So that is how we're seeing the space change with a lot of companies which are coming out with this kind of changes. And I know you spoke about the healthcare sector. I will request Anirudh to speak about it, not me.
So yes, I mean, absolutely. I think healthcare sector has started the data revolution. Uh, I think the journey for healthcare sector is going to be slightly different as compared to other sectors like retail or, I mean, pretty much any telecom or something like that. Uh, Especially from a decision making perspective. So use of AI as a final decision maker is going to be, I don't think it's going to be there for next 5 years or 10 years or something like that, because that's something where it's very difficult to for the society, for right reasons, to trust results of AI alone. You know, what I mean, so AI as a primary sort of a filter, and then making the output of AI available to the decision makers. That's the path to go, and that is the path we have taken at Deep Tech as well. And I believe any critical function, I mean, even the law and order function, AI cannot be a decision maker. AI can be sort of, AI can analyze the data and can give you an indication of what's happening. But at the end of the day, AI is a computer program. So, I mean, it cannot take into account various factors, emotional factors, various factors which actually, are not part of the data which has been put into the model. And those factors, human beings are very good at taking into consideration, and then either accepting or rejecting the AI decision to make the final decision. And I think that is how it should be. And I see in foreseeable future, probably while my career is going on, I think it will continue to be that way, at least for the critical sectors like healthcare, law and order. So, for example, I don't see in our lifetime AI making judiciary judgments. I don't think that's possible, and I don't think it should be there. It should not happen.
I know, Ashwin, you will have views on it, what was spoken just now by Anirudh. So request you to give your views because you've been talking about this.
Targets also AI. Target also AI is used primarily as a decision support system and not a decision maker. So that's very important. I agree with that completely. One thing I'd like to add was very interesting. So one thing we realized that we really need to create this layer of empathy when it comes to filtering and normalizing data further. So, for example, and that's true. Since we're talking about some of the innovations. So, I'll not talk about the other ones. I'll talk about this empathy layer innovation that we have done. So, we have created this interesting layer of empathy over conversational AI bots, over any decision making that is being recommended. For example, agriculture. Now we are talks to work with 40 million farmers of India. There's a huge plan going on, and there are beautiful tools already there, which can be used to know like weather prediction and what kind of crop should be put in a particular location. But if we add the layer of empathy over and above that, understanding the specific elements of an individual who is supposed to work on that data, then we can make it much more intelligent, and we do that. So that's really interesting, because if you're giving a farmer, okay, go ahead and since you are in this area, your soil, your weather data, etc., says that this is the kind of crop you should put, and market data also says this, perfect. But what are the specific elements of that individual you should know about so that you can recommend how, when, exact timing, what all those extra elements of recommendations that can also be given to the farmer. And that's and when they start interacting with that bot in a way that it feels exactly like them, someone they are talking to someone else, some local expert of their area, in their language, in their tone, understanding them pretty well, then it becomes much more impactful. So, empathy layer, this is one example of empathy layer, and we are putting this empathy layer across all the 5 things I mentioned, the 5 major divisions that we have. And that is one of the innovations which I would say is work in progress, and it's going better and better. For example, with the blue collar workers, when we started to interact with blue collar workers using our AI, we thought, okay, how will the blue collar workers actually understand? But now what happens is that, let's say someone in a village of West Champaran in Bihar will have a different kind of a bot interacting with them in a different kind of a tone compared to someone who is in Banaras, which is very similar to each other, but still there are some differences between the two areas. So that level of hyper localization is happening, and yeah, so that's the beauty of what the intelligence of empathy, emotions can come in and make whatever we're talking about in terms of AI much more impactful. Having said that, the limit of AI is in terms of recommending. I agree with that completely. So that those recommendations can be taken, and so the actual decisions have to be driven by the individuals who are there for that purpose.
Thank you, Ashwin, for that passion. Thank you, Ashwin.
For the passion with which you made the data interventions and how things are really moving. I know a lot of us did speak, and Srikanth is in the middle of all these data scientists sitting here to kind of defend his own case. So, Srikanth, my next question to you is that we're all talking about so much of data processing, and AI intelligence which is coming up. So, how do you see what kind of technical interventions of data and modern technologies you think are? I mean, it is accepted by everyone that they can't be taking decisions for you. They can only be helping you, aiding you. But how do you see these technologies helping you in the department to do things and have smarter ways of doing things and helping the citizens?
ड्युरिंग पॅन्डेमिकच्या काळामध्ये सुद्धा बऱ्याच ठिकाणी बऱ्याच वेळेस आपण टेक्नॉलॉजीचा वापर करून बऱ्याच वेळा प्लॉट करून आणि त्या ठिकाणी सर्व्हिलन्स पॉईंट ऑफ व्ह्यून आपण बरंचसं काम केलं आहे. त्याच्यामध्ये अजून मी म्हणेल की सध्या आता बोलण्यातून एक लक्षात आलं की आपण जसं कॅमेरा एएनपीआर कॅमेरे जे आहेत ऑटोमॅटिक नंबर प्लेट रिकग्निशनचे जे काही अल्गोरिदम आहे ते वापरून आपण मास्कसाठी सुद्धा ते वापरू शकलो असतो. मास्कचा जो अल्गोरिदम बनवून तसं जर आपण केलं असतं तर ते मास्क डिटेक्शनला आणि तसं ऍक्शन घ्यायला पण आपण बरं पडत असतं. तसंच सरांनी सांगितल्याप्रमाणे एआय आणि जे काही मशीन लर्निंग आहे त्याचा अजून वापर होणं बाकी आहे बऱ्यापैकी त्या लेवलवरती. फक्त डेटा येतोय, प्रोसेस करतोय आणि त्याच्यावरती त्या बेसिसवरती आम्ही डिसिजन घेतोय आणि एक्झिक्यूट करतो त्या गोष्टी. दुसरा एक सांगायला हरकत नाही की महाट्रॅफिक नावाचं एक ऍप डेव्हलप केलेलं आहे महाराष्ट्र पोलीस. तर त्या ऍपच्या मार्फत लोक पण रिपोर्ट करू शकतात. जर काय ट्रॅफिक व्हायलेशन झालं असेल तर स्वतः समोर ते फोटो कॅप्चर करू शकतात आणि तो डेटा सर्व्हरला येऊ शकतो, त्याच्यावरती ऑटोमॅटिकली ऍक्शन वगैरे घेतली जाते. म्हणजे ह्या पण पब्लिक आणि पोलिसांचं पार्टिसिपेशन होऊन त्या ठिकाणी चांगल्या गोष्टी घडू शकतात. त्याच्यानंतर CVIRMS ही पण एक सिस्टीम आपण डेव्हलप केलेली आहे, सध्या पब्लिक पोलिसांची इथं सुरू आहे. CVIRMS म्हणजे काय, सिटी व्हिजिटर इन्फॉर्मेशन रेकॉर्ड मॅनेजमेंट सिस्टीम. म्हणजे बेसिकली काय होतं, बऱ्याच वेळा क्रिमिनल्स येतात, एक छोटे मोठे हॉटेलला थांबतात किंवा कुठेतरी पीजीच्या हॉस्टेलला थांबतात आणि काही क्राईम करून आपल्या इथे निघून जातात. ते टॅप करणं मला खूप आवडतं. लोकली जर ऍक्युरेट असेल तर आम्ही शोधू शकतो, पण येऊन काय करून गेला तर तो ट्रेस करणं अवघड आहे. त्यासाठी आम्ही काय केलं की हा जो जे काही छोटे मोठे हॉटेल्स असतात, रेस्टॉरंट्स आहेत, त्याच्यानंतर पेट्रोल पंप असतात, पीजी हॉस्टेल्स आहेत, या सगळ्या ठिकाणचं जे काही लोक व्हिजिट करतायत त्यांच्याकडे रेकॉर्ड आहे, परंतु ते ऑर्गनाइज नाही प्रॉपर. त्यांना प्रॉपर फॉर्मॅट देऊन त्या ठिकाणी ते सगळं सॉफ्टवेअरमध्ये आम्ही केलेलं आहे. तो सगळा डेटा कोण व्यक्ती आला, किती दिवस राहिला आणि कुठे गेला, त्याचा आधार फोटो आयडी जे काय असेल त्यांनी घ्यायला सांगितलं त्यांना, जेणेकरून त्यामध्ये आपल्याला डेटा वापरून घडलं. डेटा किंवा या एक्सपर्ट लोकांची निश्चितच आम्हाला मदत लागणार आहे, कारण एवढा मी त्यातले आमचा तो विंडो नाही टेक्नॉलॉजीला. थोडंफार मला टेक्नॉलॉजीचं आहे नॉलेज म्हणून मी त्या ठिकाणी बोलू शकतोय. आता एवढं आमचं ट्रॅडिशनल आमचं डोमेन वेगळं आहे, सर्व्हिलन्स पॉईंट ऑफ व्ह्यू असेल किंवा इन्व्हेस्टिगेशन पॉईंट ऑफ व्ह्यू, वेगळं आमचं एक्सपर्टाईज वेगळं आहे. परंतु आपल्या सगळ्या डेटा एक्सपर्टची मदत घेऊन प्रायव्हसी आणि कॉन्फिडेन्शियलिटीचा थोडंसं कुठे सोडण्यामध्ये साधून आणि विदिन लॉ फ्रेम मध्ये बसून आपण त्या ठिकाणी निश्चितच भविष्यकाळामध्ये आपण करू शकतो. आणि भविष्यामध्ये तर एवढं स्मार्ट सिटीज आणि ह्या गोष्टी सगळं होत चाललेलं आहे, डेटा हे निश्चितच आपल्यासाठी फायदेशीर पण करू शकतो. टूल आणि ते काय म्हणतो फोन ऑफ बँक म्हणतो त्याच्यामध्ये होऊ शकतं ते. त्यासाठी या सगळ्यांनी मिळून आपण एक चांगला पॉईंट ऑफ व्ह्यू आपण पुढे जायला पाहिजे. थँक्यू.
Very important point Shrikantji brought about, and this is a typical problem that we're facing in our country, where the small kind of criminals, crimes are getting created because you're not able to identify that citizen who goes and stays in some hostel and then just commits the crime and just moves on. I know, Zohar, you've done a lot of work in this particular space. I know in Tel Aviv, you have also created something which we call it as the citizen card, where everyone gets tracked on whatever is being done. I think that's been a great initiative. I'm sure in times to come, India will also, and Pune would also, and PCMC would also have devices like that to track every citizen and individual. Of course, that also puts everyone on the radar because everyone gets tracked on what is happening. So that's the flip side of it. Zohar, from the knowledge management system in municipalities, where you played a very significant role, how can this development, how can this be developed to create a useful outcome, especially on the context of what was being spoken just now by Shrikantji in India, and how things are in Tel Aviv, and how you really brought about this transformation, Zohar?
Okay, thank you. So this is a great question. I've been involved in knowledge management for many years, and in fact, I'm one of the primary knowledge managers in the public sector. So for many years, public organizations did not understand what knowledge management really is and how it can contribute to improving municipal services for residents. Anyone who works in a large organization and probably a public organization is aware of the fact that the organization is built through silos and different units and departments engage in various areas of the city management, education, water, engineering, tax collection, roads, lighting, and so on. So often each unit operates with its own information systems, with a particular organizational culture, and with a focus solely on the needs of the unit and its tasks. So there are not many factors in the organization that look at the needs of the residents. Organizational knowledge management does. So we all as citizens seek information and services in different organizations and expect the organization from which I receive service to look at all my needs and give me a central and unified service. The citizen is not really interested in who is the unit from which he receives service and what is its role. What interests him is to receive the service in one place and in the same standard of service. So therefore, in order to improve services provided to residents, a uniform methodology must be built for updating information, a common organizational language, and changing organizational culture. From a closed organization that retrains its knowledge to a participatory and open organization in which efforts are made to make residents as accessible as possible. So in order to realize this, common platforms must be built for all the units and uniform templates into which the organizational information will be poured. One example I can give of such a project is the city's call center project, which contains about 3,000 call scripts that basically contain all the answers to all the questions and hazards addressed to the call center by the residents. So any call center representative can easily retrieve the answers to the residents and the action he or she must take in order to address it. The call scripts are constantly updated and is needed by the representative of the relevant units. The process by which all units update the information is not a simple process. You must carry out a process in which you connect employees and managers to common goals and create an understanding of why it is important to do so. The organizational manager must place this at the top of the priorities and encourage managers to connect to the unified concept of knowledge management. If they succeed in doing so, the resident is the first to enjoy this move. He is exposed to one organization that thinks about him and his family. He is exposed to an organization that seeks to improve the quality of service it provides and raise the quality of life of every resident. So the knowledge management infrastructure allows the municipality to focus on what is important and not just what is urgent. It looks at the resident in 360 degrees and allows the organization to focus and streamline how the service is received. The infrastructure also makes it possible to anticipate the needs of each resident through the year and make the information accessible in advance and even before the resident understands that he needs the information itself. So in fact, knowledge management makes it possible to transform the corporation from a representative corporation to intelligently active corporation, which use advanced database, big data, prediction, smart algorithms, and more. Thank you.
Good insight on knowledge management piece that is being used in terms of the intelligent use of it in the municipalities. I think that's a great learning for all of us sitting here to understand how knowledge management piece could be really used in our municipalities as well. So I'm coming to Stephen again. Stephen, the machine learning, this is one area which we would like to touch upon today in our discussion, which is now a very, very popular notion in the digital world. Today, everyone is speaking of machine learning, and businesses are, I'm sure, as much as the policy makers, the businesses are also racing towards it. How do we get on to the, the machine learning space, and how significantly and how importantly do you believe that it is for the urban local bodies to use this machine learning and this efficient technology to take things forward? What's your opinion on how could the urban bodies use machine learning as a tool to take the initiatives forward? Stephen.
Yeah. So machine learning is clearly one of the biggest words, nowadays, right? The of the current days. And I have already mentioned that the big data and advanced analytics are the key foundational technologies that enable the smart cities, right? And when we talk about advanced analytics, well, machine learning is a big part of the advanced analytics techniques, right? So it's almost an equation between advanced analytics and machine learning. And it's interesting that one cannot live without the other, right? You cannot have a machine learning without the data, right? And if you have a data and you don't really have algorithms, that allow you to interpret the data, then the data is also a bit useless, right? It just gives you a limited value. So data and algorithms, right? Machine learning algorithms, just nicely fit to each other, right? They empower each other. And it's primarily the predictive and the prescriptive analytics, which comes with the machine learning, that allows us to build all those wonderful applications, right? We talk about multimodal transport optimization, we talk about autonomous driving, we'll be talking about that soon, right? We talk about all the recommendation engines and other, right? This is all about the machine learning algorithms, and without the machine learning algorithms, we would not have those applications, right? So it's really critical, and sometimes people do not realize how much sophistication, right? How much mathematics and statistics have been already built in some of those applications, right? It's absolutely right? And the benefits that are based on machine learning are not even visible to citizens, right? The cities use data analytics to improve their operational efficiencies, right? And and those provide benefits to various decision makers, right? They drive reduced maintenance and repair requirements, of these city assets, or the trains, cars and everything, right? Or they help cities to reduce complaints, right? Because the beauty of the predictive and prescriptive is that you can react on those things that have a certain probability to happen, right? So you don't need to wait for things to happen, to react on it. You can address them proactively, right? So the proactiveness is really enabled, by the predictive algorithms, right? And predictive algorithms, machine learning, again, almost the same, right? And one area where machine learning makes a revolution is clearly a video, voice, and sound processing, right? So these technologies, and we call it sometimes AI, and again, AI versus machine learning, long discussion, but we can kind of put it into the same set, right? All these use cases would not exist without machine learning, right? And we agree, I think, as a citizens of any city and any country, that public safety, right, and efficient traffic management are the things, that make a huge difference to our lives, right? We like to live in cities, which are safe, right? And enjoy it, right? And we like to be guaranteed, that we can use the transportation, without the outage, right? And that we will get from the point A to B, predictably and so on, right? So these are like area of big interest of every city, right? At the same time, these are the areas where the machine learning is contributing a lot, right? The machine learning can substantially increase the level of automation, right? And information about traffic congestion, individual vehicles, dangerous situations, suspect individuals can be extracted from the video streams in the real time, right? And alerts and recommendations can feed respective downstream management systems, right? Or be provided directly to all enforcement officers, right? The case that we've been working recently on, is kind of a concept of a closed loop machine learning process, for the security analytics. And the case was sourcing the data from a traffic data, right? So traffic monitoring systems. It took the data from all the surveillance cameras, right? So the cameras that you can find on the street. And it was also leveraging the data from the customer interaction systems, right? And the customer interactions can be complaint, can be police reporting, but it can be also the system where the citizens are reporting the breach or suspicious behavior, right? Some countries love the systems, right? And all the data to create a certain context, right? The context of the situation, So that when you look at the particular situation, you have all the data organized in the way that they augment the understanding of the given situation, right? So that you can ask the questions about the situation, the person, or persons, who are involved, in the situation, the location, right? And possibly the objects that are also involved, right? And this data allowed us to build a machine learning model that was kind of predicting the events. So you can define, what are the dangerous events, which are the events that you don't want to happen, right? And with the data that you have in your platform, in the data platform, you can really build a predictive model that will say there is a high probability that an unwanted event will happen in the particular location in the particular time frame, right? And these alerts we then fed into the operating centers, right? And the control towers, so that the law enforcement officers would not only see what's happening, but would be alerted, watch this particular location because something may happen here, right? So again, the power of machine learning is absolutely incredible, and along with the like a very fast computing, along with the capability to integrate more and more data, it really gives the cities, incredible power. I'm expecting actually a lot of new great use cases, that will pop up, in various places based on the machine learning as more data will be integrated, right? It's really about the broadness of the context. The more data you bring together, the more questions you can ask, and more algorithms you can apply, and more use cases you can actually develop. Back to you.
Interesting point that you're leading into my next question, which will go to Shrikant ji, where you've been making the mention of the fact that every citizen wants to live in a very, very safe city. And driving somebody in a safe city with a lot of machine learning tools and techniques that we are today talking of, and the world is talking about these futuristic technologies. How do you see the future? What is it that lies for us in future as a country, as a city, and as a place that we are in? What are your views? What would be the future for us with all these technological interventions?
Definitely, AI will going to help in safe city and safe people. पण याच्यामध्ये एक ट्रॅफिक व्हायलेशनचं मी उदाहरण देतो. म्हणजे आयडिया अशी आहे की डॅश कॅम असेल, गाडीवरती माउंट असेल, त्याच्यावरती आपण एआय बेसवरती सगळे त्यांना ते ऑलरेडी वर्कआउट केलेलं असेल, आणि त्या फ्रेममध्ये जे काही व्हायलेशन आपण त्याला फिट केलं असेल ते व्हायलेशन कॅप्चर होईल, आणि त्याप्रमाणे ऑटोमॅटिक त्याला चालक त्याच्या मोबाईल जाईल. म्हणजे जे डोळ्यांना आपण पोलिसिंग करतोय सर्व्हिलन्स पॉईंट ऑफ व्ह्यू, आमचा ट्रॅफिक कॉप त्या ठिकाणी उभा असतो, तो बघतो, व्हायलेशन डोळ्याने पाहतो, कॅप्चर करतो, आणि मग त्याला चलन वगैरे करतो. तिथे एआय वापरू शकतो. एआयच्या माध्यमातून तो ह्या गोष्टी होऊ शकतात. आता ह्या गोष्टी करून अल्टिमेटली काय करायचं की लोकांना डिसिप्लिन लावायचं किंवा त्यांचं बिहेवियरल चेंज जो करायचा आहे तो आपल्याला टेक्नॉलॉजीच्या माध्यमातून करायचा आहे. त्यासाठी एआय असेल, मशीन लर्निंग असेल, ह्या टूलचा नक्कीच भविष्यामध्ये आपल्याला फायदा होणारच आहे. आता सध्याच्या काळामध्ये बघायला गेलं तर एवढं पेनिट्रेशन तेवढं झालेलं नाहीये, परंतु भविष्यात जरी आपल्याला करायचं असेल तर त्यामध्ये चॅलेंजेस खूप आहेत. कारण आमचं काम आम्ही आउटसोर्स करू शकत नाही, आम्हाला त्यामध्ये इक्विपमेंट करायचे. म्हणजे यू आर एक्सपर्ट, तुम्हाला सोल्युशन माहिती आहे, पण प्रॉब्लेम आम्हाला चांगला नाही. त्या प्रॉब्लेमला तुमच्याशी सोल्युशन असणाऱ्याशी कम्युनिकेट करणं आणि त्या कॉमन प्लॅटफॉर्मवरती येऊन त्याला कुठेतरी लिगल फ्रेममध्ये आपल्याला पुढं सोल्युशन करणं हे अत्यंत आवश्यक आहे. त्यासाठी ह्या गोष्टी भविष्य काळामध्ये आपल्याला हे ट्रेनिंग करणं असेल, स्किल त्या ठिकाणी आमच्या कॉपमध्ये आलं पाहिजे. या सगळ्या गोष्टीसाठी आपल्याला प्रयत्न करणं अत्यंत आवश्यक आहे. तर निश्चितच टेक्नॉलॉजी ही भविष्यामध्ये, आणि मी तर असं स्पष्ट म्हणतो की विदाऊट टेक्नॉलॉजी भविष्यामध्ये त्या ठिकाणी आपल्याला सेफ्टीचे जो पॉईंट ऑफ व्ह्यू आहे तो आता इफेक्टिव्ह इम्प्लिमेंट करता येणार नाही. त्यामुळे डेटा ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टींचा विचार करता, टेक्नॉलॉजीचा वापर करता भविष्यामध्ये निश्चितच आपल्याला सेफ आणि सगळ्यांना लोकांच्या मनातलं परसेप्शन चेंज होईल अशा पद्धतीचं पोलिसिंग आपण करू शकतो.
Great insights to you, Shrikantji, on how do we see the future of the police force as far as cities are concerned. Zohar, you've already traveled some distance, which is much faster than what we are currently experiencing here. How do you see, since now you're also in the social innovation space, so how do you see social innovation space using big data, and how do you see the future for the big data in the social innovation space? And how is Israel coping up? Of course, the biggest crisis that everyone today in the world is going through is the health crisis. And I'm sure Israel is also one country which has gone through it. India is also facing it. The worldwide, we're all under the grip of COVID-19, So how do you see the shifts and the change that's going to happen and interventions of data for future? And what has been the learnings for us from this big crisis that the world has gone through? We're not really prepared. No one in the world was prepared for it. So how do you see this, Zohar?
What the importance and benefits of using for data and innovation. As I mentioned earlier, public organizations must change the perception of silo in which all the units manage the information separately and contact with the residents and engage in a joint effort and organizational look at services to residents. So like I said, it takes a change of organizational culture training of employees, and especially what comes out of them personally is the manage information and share. When showing managers employees and the result options from big data systems and how it serves their unit and they desire to collaborate with great. So Israel makes extensive use of big data systems, of course, for various and varied needs. Data has always been the basis for innovation in health services and life sciences. In the last decade, the field has recorded an impressive leap that has greatly aided the research, analysis, and the understanding of medical findings and comparisons to hundreds of thousands of billions of other cases. So looking at the last 2 years, it's clear that the coronavirus has solved the importance of the data one step further. We all felt this every day as we track data in different cuts, such as number of patients by cities, cases, number of respiratories, and coefficients of infections, and so on and so on. And while that
Lower mute, I think.
you hear me now? Okay, so the struggle in Corona Israel is showing signs of success, but it is unfortunately continuing in many places in the world. The important lessons learned by medical staff and IT professionals is that the epidemic solution is faster when faster computer can be relied upon. Continued research of the corona and current and the future medical challenges require the right infrastructure, including the ability to rapidly expand to the levels of work we saw during the epidemic. Organizations can streamline the modern research infrastructure by investing in modern solutions that will allow them to focus on faster access to vital data. Ultimately, this ability brings new insights and discoveries of science at a faster pace. Back to you.
Thank you, Zohar.
Ashwin, what would be your views on the future of policy making as far as India is concerned with the use of data?
I believe the future is without a doubt. And the work which is happening over here and elsewhere with the whole open data concept is what Prashant also mentioned. Basically, data used to be in silos and decisions used to happen based on that. But with this, what happens that data is available all across, and with so much of data coming together, which can interact with each other, the complexities which are required in policy making can be solved to a great extent using data. So, and we saw this during the COVID times. I mean, any amount of experts sitting together and trying to crack the code of what is to be done without using data would not happen. So, data, and this is just one example, this is true for literally everything. Things are getting even more complicated with the world moving forward. So many changes are happening, the world has become extremely volatile, and with all of this, using data for policy making is not just a luxury, it's a need, it's going to happen for sure. So the future is that. Now we'll see the future happening in stages over a period of time, but the future will be data-driven policy making for sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashwin. Anil, so how do you see the future of the startups and the innovators? How is the space going to change in times to come with the data interventions?
I think a bit difficult question for me to answer. I am more on the technology side, but yes, I mean absolutely, lots of startups are coming up, and now government platforms for data also have started coming up, and sort of collecting all the data, which is a raw material which is necessary for building any app for startups. So and again, I think the funding ecosystem, if there is a larger sort of native or local funding ecosystem, I think that will get a big impetus for startups, because if the funding is going to mostly come from outside India, then the solutions are going to be built mostly for outside India. I think that particular bottleneck probably needs to be solved. I think again, central government is doing some stuff about it. I don't know how many disbursement of that startup fund which was created have happened, but yeah, I think that is the way to go. I think solutions which are built by Indian companies for India and also funded by Indian money. That's, I think, is the key to grow in this space.
My question to you would be, as a serial entrepreneur that you have been, how do you see the future of this particular space in terms of citizen engagement? What is the future that lies ahead of us?
Absolutely, that's a good question. Setting the context, taking where most of the panelists have actually taken us today is, if you look at the data creators and their data consumers, there is a connection in between which is data disruptors, and these are people who are actually thinking ahead of time and creating some market value. And how can one be the data disruptor? Is the space where we are talking about the next level of entrepreneurship and innovation. And as Anil also rightly mentioned, that it's not one company or one man game, but it is an ecosystem. It's a data innovation ecosystem that needs to be effectively operated. And whether it is an academia, whether it is researcher community, whether it is government or industry, so many different segments of society who can come together because everybody's needs are going to be different. And in fact, rightly pointed out by Sheikhanji, that there is a physical cop and there is an AI cop who's actually constantly looking at traffic surveillance is a good example that he mentioned. Now, I'm just drawing that analogy to say that what is the role of artificial intelligence? It is not to replace the humans, but if the decision makers are Akbars, the data scientists are Birbals. Right? If they are Chandraguptas, you're creating Chanakyas by way of putting together intelligence in the context of data, connecting dots for creating a new market value. Now, when you're creating a market value where this can actually lead to, in fact, in 2019, Government of India has announced the AI policy for India, and I would not be surprised maybe next couple of years we get an IT ministry, AI ministry for India. Dubai already has done it. Germany is thinking of taxing the robots because there is a kind of a production that is actually getting enhanced with technology, but the government is losing out on the revenue which indirect will otherwise be generated through the physical employment, right? So countries are actually taking a view of when we adopt more and more data-intensive technology, what is going to be the socio-economic impact? And a populated country like us, there is a need for us to create that data ecosystem. And I think last couple of years, government has taken some necessary steps in that direction. We as industry, as probably the technology companies also have to play a role. What we call in our industry terms is AI for good or data for good is not only for our commercial profits, but we would like to take a step forward to be part of such initiatives where we can bring in the research communities, the stakeholders from all the sides, and we as probably technology or industry experts as how we can create a sandpit environment where the more and more data innovations can spring out from India for the global markets, but also for Indian markets. And last point, which Aniruddha mentioned, is if you look at one of the fuel for the startup innovation is funding, also a talent, as well as the government policies and how that can be conducive. There has been a lot of talk about it, but we are seeing a lot of action, with respect to the startup funding, is actually still being dominated by the companies on the valley. So that's one area where maybe India can certainly encourage more startups and entrepreneurship because the data game is little different than a conventional IT or conventional other industries. It has a tremendous potential because it starts from your curiosity and a simple data question that you would like to answer, and if it can be supplemented by the incubators, and the industry linkages, I think there is a way forward, and I'm quite an optimist about India's future on startup and especially on the data ecosystem side of it.
Stephen, quickly your thoughts on having worked cross-border. How do you see the future for data across multiple economies and countries? Stephen.
It's a good question, obviously, and as a commercial organization, we like to think about our customers, whether they are commercial organizations or they are cities, being successful, right? So that not only buy the technology and not only integrate the data, but really achieve the expected outcomes, right? So and when we talk about smart cities, the expected outcome is something which is of the benefit for the citizens, right? And so we usually have in mind the three critical success factors, right? And when we talk to the organizations and we talk to the municipals or governments, we try to make sure that these three factors are really well understood, right? And the first one we always talk about, and I think this is de facto the most important one, is to keep in mind, that the discussion about smart cities has this strong political dimension, right? And governments and municipalities play a critical role in defining the policies, right? And encouraging the cooperation of authorities and the agencies, they govern, right? And smart city functions need to reflect the actual pain points of the society, right? So it cannot be just something that is cool, right? Just to address the pain point, and it needs to be based on the generally accepted priorities, right? So that's number one. Second, it's about the technology, right? Technology really matters, and we've said that the technologies that have changed the way how we operate are now changing the way we look at our resources. Right? Advanced algorithms can provide insight into specific processes and activities, and can help facilitate decisions beyond the human's ability. Right? But these technologies are incredibly sophisticated and complicated, and cities need to be ready to invest into resources. Right? They need to have a human capital. They need to have big technology available so they can make it happen. Right? Moreover, as I stated, the data is the foundation of the smart city concept. Smart city capabilities require lots of data, right? And these data needs to be systematically collected and managed. And cities need to define and establish data ingestion and sharing frameworks. And the third is the usability and adoption, right? While analytics is extremely powerful, citizens and users cannot consume the analytics directly, right? Cities need to think about the applications that deliver new benefits to their citizens. And these applications need to be very intuitive, right? And have to be generally integrated in the citizens' day-to-day activities. And they could augment the existing digital tools the citizens already using, right? So these are, let's say, three principles that you always have in mind, and I also like to think about those as the three critical factors for any municipality that's thinking about engaging with the digital transformation.
We had very, very interesting discussions. So there were 3 rounds wherein we actually understood from each one of you. I think it was a grand panel of 6 very, very eminent people that we had, and with diverse backgrounds that all of us came together here today to discuss on a very, very important topic. And I'm very happy to understand the experiences that you all came up with. In terms of how you're contributing in your own ways, and also your vision in terms of what lies ahead of us in future. I would like to thank all the panelists, especially Shrikant Desai for having come here, Aniruddha Pant, Prashant Pansare, Ashwin, who's joined us online, Zohar, who's joined us again online from Israel, and Stephen, who's joined us straight from Singapore. I apologize for the little bit of technical glitches that happened today. We're talking of data, we're talking of technology, but unfortunately there have been small technical glitches that we had to undergo today. But I would fail in my duties. If I really don't thank the online participants who have come today in a big, big way. This program, which is going on live on Facebook as well as in YouTube, where people are seeing the program, and I am really happy and delighted to share with you that there have been some colleges in this periphery in PCMC who've been really instrumental to bring this program together here. So we have some of the college representatives. May I request Shrikantji to kindly felicitate these 2 colleges. It's the JSPM Rajeshri Shahu College of Engineering. If we can have the representative to come on the stage, and also the representative from Maghalmal Udaram College of Commerce from Pimpri, who have been really instrumental. Professor Hemant Rajesh, who has been here. So if we could invite all of them, and I will request ACP sir to kindly felicitate them today for their contribution in making this program online very, very successful. So my request the college, madam, please come, yes, PM. Come here, madam. So we have the representatives from colleges over here. Shrikantji is felicitating them.
Thanks, audience. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, PCMC, for having given Pune University opportunity to be a part of this program. Thank you, Foxbury team, for making all the things and bringing everything together in one fold and leading things very, very beautifully. Thank you all so much. Okay, I will request you to, sir, ACP sir, to make this felicitation. I think they are keen that they felicitate me today.
Before ending this program, on behalf of PCMC and Smart City, I would like to thank all the honorable judge and the jury members for giving your contribution, for the tremendous contribution for the open data challenges 2022, and biggest thanks to Apurva Palkar ma'am for being present here, and my team for giving your contributions. Thank you so much.